Good evening and welcome to the June 6th, 2024 Parks and Recreation Commission regular hybrid video meeting. My name is Peter Struck and I'm the Park and Recs Commission Chair. Tonight, the Park and Recreation Commission meeting is in person and using video conferencing technology provided by Zoom. The Zoom video of this meeting is being recorded and will be broadcast live via Zoom and later will be uploaded to the city's YouTube channel later this evening. Other public audience members are listening to the meeting by telephone or via the internet. Additionally, the city has opened up the community center to provide public space for viewing and participating in the meeting. Welcome to all and thank you for joining us tonight. Commissioners, please turn on your microphone. And will the city staff please call the roll?
Commissioner Cohen.
Here.
Commissioner Hay.
Here.
Commissioner McCarthy.
Here.
Commissioner Westberg.
Here.
Commissioner Markson.
Here.
Vice Chair Burstein.
Present.
Chair Struck.
Here. Thank you. City staff, is there anyone who has signed up for appearances that wishes to address the commission this evening?
There are not.
Okay, thank you very much. So with that, we will move to the first item on the agenda, which is the staff liaison report and planning schedule update. And for that, we welcome Ryan Daly, the recreation manager.
Thank you, Chair Struck. Allow me to share real quick. There we go. Share. All right, we're off and moving. All right, just a couple of updates here with our Parks and Natural Resources team. We had some May volunteer events, 8 actually, 113 participants in those with 256 hours of work. The volunteers removed about 9,600 square feet of ivy, blackberry, and bluebells across 5 different park areas. This June, we'll be hosting a number of events as well. One every Saturday, and we'll be hosting another mindfulness walk in Pioneer Park on June 18th. Additionally, our crews were really busy this last week with the recent winds and rains, a lot of tree cleanup, branches and debris, as well as our park maintenance team member, Zach Doherty, who obtained his tree risk assessment qualification. So good work by our Parks and Natural Resources teams. Update on the Luther Burbank boiler building. Some people call it the boiler building. Us in recreation call it the boathouse, which makes it sound that much classier. But phase 1 of construction is continuing. Work involves side-slip retrofits, chimney reinforcement, and some renovation of those restrooms down below, all very much needed. Scaffolding and rebar was installed inside of the chimney in preparation for concrete placement, which they place inside of that chimney to help reinforce it. And then formwork was completed casting the concrete roof beam, which will connect the chimney and the ceiling wall to the building. The beam will transfer the load from the chimney and increase the seismic stability. The concrete floor was poured last week. Steel installation for the new mezzanine starts this week, and roof work is planned for mid-June. If you've been inside of that building, I'm very excited about the concrete floor. It used to have tons of cracks, a lot of patchwork, and so that's going to make it that much more usable for future tenants, renters, and various users of that facility. And that project update is down at the bottom there at Let's Talk. Luther Burbank Courts, construction has officially started. Actually very busy and loud down there today. We've started excavating that south hill to make the construction access road along the side of the courts there. Cultural Resources is on site monitoring during excavation in case there's any sort of a finding in there. We don't anticipate there will be a finding of any cultural aspects within that hillside, but we do have them on site monitoring. We were also removing sections of the existing asphalt, which will install that electrical conduit and drainage for that site. What's not shown here on this picture is actually a secondary site at Island Crest Park. We've taped off 4 pickleball courts on those existing tennis courts, which will provide a location for play throughout this summer until this project is completed. Once this project's completed, those lines will be removed and that court will be restored back to tennis courts. Playground replacements. So starting off with Roanoke Park, staff has submitted permits this week, and the anticipated review time is 6 to 10 weeks. The play equipment has been ordered with a delivery expected later on this summer. The city and the contractor installer are finalizing the scope of work and creating a fee estimate at this time. First Hill Park, work continues to develop a draft site plan to share with the community. Staff provided comments back to Berger, who's the consultant designing that facility, and provided that input on those potential concepts. Updates will be shared on Let's Talk soon. Dean's Children's Park. This is going to be a larger undertaking. I think we've talked about this a bit with the Parks Commission. Staff and Berger are meeting this month to discuss what the community engagement plan is. We do anticipate a more robust community engagement around this installation. There's a lot of opportunity area here. You'll recall that there's a picnic shelter, an outstanding bike skills area right next door, as well as a restroom facility off of the park that doesn't quite serve all of the needs in that area. So a large engagement going to happen with that. We're going to be engaging a number of community stakeholders with more opportunities being shared on Let's Talk, but we anticipate that happening, kicking off later and into the fall of this year. And updates can be found at the website linked below. Summer camps. Gosh, it feels like summer today too. We have 16 different partners offering our camps. As you'll recall, coming out of or through the Recreation Reset Plan, we kind of reorganized the way we offer our camp programs. So we really utilize partnerships and third-party contractors. This year, we've partnered with an assortment of camp opportunities, sports camps, creativity, performance arts, bike riding. There's really something for everybody. And so we work closely with those partners to promote, and we have a website listed below. I will say we are seeing a little bit of a change maybe from historical norms, seeing less registrations early. That's something we've reached out to other partners as well. They're experiencing also, specifically the Boys and Girls Club and the JCCs. So the way we see our role here with Parks and Recreation is to continue to promote those opportunities to the community. Their decision, obviously, if taking part, and we look to make alterations regularly dependent on the success of different programs. So we'll continue to monitor that, but if you have any children looking for camp programs, send them our way. Love to have them. We have a couple of events here right on the near horizon. Pride in the Park happening on June 15th at Mercerdale. Great event. Lot of community partnership with actually both of these with Juneteenth as well. We work closely with the students at the school district to help to promote and host these. Juneteenth happening later on June 19th from 12 to 4 at Mercerdale. Each year, better and better attendance. A lot of fun. I'm going to go out on a limb and guarantee sun for both of these events this year. So hope to see you all there. Mostly music in the park. I'll just highlight we've added a number of dates this year. I think the commission is aware we were planning on doing a sewer line project in the park. That's been postponed. And Katie Herzog's right over there. She jumped at the opportunity to add a couple of her favorite bands into the mix. Looking forward to a really great lineup this summer, July 11th through the 22nd. Should be a lot of fun, a lot of different groups. Summer celebration is definitely not that far away. This is a picture actually from last year from a photographer that we got in touch with, and outstanding work. But what's really exciting this year, similar footprint to last year, but we have more sponsors. We've had a number of new sponsors step up to support this event. We're really looking forward to July 13th at Mercerdale Park and here at Luther Burbank for the parade, food trucks, fireworks, art vendors, and entertainment throughout. So hope to see all of you there as well. It's Library Day. We're talking library, so why not highlight the Mercer Island Library sale or Friends of Mercer Island Library sale. So through June 10th, the Friends of the Library will be hosting a mini sale. They'll be selling gently used books and media at the Mercer Island Library during their operating hours. This is a no cashier sale, and it'll be set up in the corner where the ongoing shelf sales are currently located. All of the proceeds will go toward library programs, and books will be restocked daily. So please swing by. A little bit of fun. We had 2 weeks ago, we had an opportunity as a Parks and Recreation staff to go attend the WRPA conference. That's the Washington Recreation and Park Association conference. One of the highlights, well, there's actually two. I'll start with the first one is Patrick Nugent there in the upper right. He's one of our recreation assistants here. He is one heck of a karaoke singer. So if you get a chance to see him, please say hi and reference that. He will not appreciate me for that. But more importantly is we received an award for the bike skills area, and that was a Spotlight Facility Award, recognizing not just the bike skills area and the outcome there, but also the process. And highlighting the relationship between the Parks and Rec Commission, the City Council, community members on both sides of the aisle, as well as collaboration with staff. So congratulations to everybody who worked on that. Sarah Bluvis came down and was able to accept the award, as well as Tom Flynn from our park maintenance team, who did a lot of the actual work and preparation on the site. So congratulations to everyone. And so now I'm just going to talk really briefly about the planning schedule. July 11th, that's a special meeting. That's going to be a Luther Burbank Park project and tour. So we'll get a boots on the ground look at the pickleball courts and hopefully getting closer and closer to completion. We'll also be visiting the boiler building down below and some different areas throughout the park. So we'll meet here in this room, we'll kick off the meeting, and then we'll head down to the park from there and then finish up the meeting back on site here. No meeting in August. And then we have a number of anticipated. And so September, we anticipate kicking off the park zone planning process, similar to the open space zone, which we just wrapped up. I say anticipated because we live and work in the city of Mercer Island, and it seems like something new pops up on our radar every day. And so we're currently working, as you know, through a couple of challenging capital projects that we're wrapping up. This project, the park zone, will again be led by our city manager, Jesse Bond. So some of that is her schedule dependent as well, but we still are anticipating a kickoff for that process in fall of this year. Going further down is in November, we'll revisit the recreation policies that we've implemented over the past couple of years. We won't touch on all of them, but we'll highlight some areas that we may want to dive into in 2025 with the commission for some updates potentially. And then in December, we'll finish up with a capital project update related to the pros plan and projects within that, as well as the capital project budget. With that, thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Commissioners, any questions of Ryan? Commissioner Hay.
Yeah, I have a question about something that was on the agenda for this year, and we bumped it with the open space, and now we've got Park Zone coming up. But I think it was in April we were going to be talking about the Parks Code. Is that still something that we are going to find a way to fit into the next year?
When you say next year, do you say 2025?
Oh, well, at any point.
So,
yeah, when
so
do we anticipate that?
So my anticipation is we'll get into the park zone creation. Once we start working through that, that's sort of, if you're thinking about how things are created, you start with the big, and so we're going to start with the park zone, and then that'll start to identify areas within park rules or the park code that need to be further dealt with, I should say. So I would anticipate probably right after finishing the park zone, we go into the park code. There could be some overlap potentially there, but some of that is just, it's timing dependent.
Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
my anticipate, if I was going to throw a date out there, which I should never do in an open public meeting, but here I go. Probably Q2 of 2025 would be my plan. And I think that we're probably going to wrap up the park zone depending on start time, sometime around late quarter Q1.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Commissioner Cohen.
Maybe this is better to wait until a later agenda item, but on your comment that the city and other providers have noticed fewer early registrations for the summer camp programs, is there a recognized reason that anybody has come up with so far? Because I see in the 2023 budget to actual that we were way down also.
Yep.
So it's not like something suddenly changed. And if you want to wait until the agenda item, that's okay with me.
I say we cover it right now real quick because Katie's ready to talk about it. I'll say I don't have any hard data points on this right now. But I do think we have a situation, I'll call it a good problem regionally. We have a lot of camp providers. I think there was a lot of things that came out of COVID where different entities and individuals identified opportunity. Mercer Island's a very small community, and we offer a whole lot of programs across all of our organizations, be it the Boys and Girls Club, the JCC, Parks and Recreation, private clubs, even off-island rentals that are coming in. I think Katie might be able to speak to this a little bit better, but we do see a number of rental groups that come in. They're not affiliated with, they're providing a service or a parks summer camp, but they're doing it as a rental and sort of third party. But Katie, do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, I think it's always been a little bit difficult to track what parents and kids want, alike for summer. For a while, we were seeing if we had a wide variety of specialized camps, those were really, kind of hitting the spot with parents. We moved away from maybe that all-day type of camp that could work as a, maybe a daycare option. And we have a lot of still variety, but half-day options. And I think this year will be a really good point of, okay, half-day doesn't seem to be it anymore. Is it that full day? And frankly, prices have really rose for summer camps. Speaking as a recreation professional and a parent, it's not cheap to send your kid to a week of camp. And so with all the options and, perhaps travel plans out there, it's really a hard one to track as it does seem to have changed, certainly after the pandemic, of what people are looking for.
I think that trend is true, not just of community camps, but it's true, like, I went to camp and we ran a camp for a couple of years back in Wisconsin, and my grandsons go back there. It used to be that everybody went for 8 weeks.
Mhm.
And then things became more compressed because there were so many more options, whether it was sports camps or chess camps or whatever it is. And I don't know, I hear what you're saying, that you're looking for quite the right balance in supply and demand and so forth. And I'll be interested to see what happens, because as you know better than I do, it's a significant dollar difference, actual versus budget from 2023.
Yeah, we'll cover the budget later. I'll speak to that a little bit of why I think those numbers came out the way they did.
Any other questions? Just one last one, Ryan, for the record. Are you going to put on your meteorological hat for summer celebration? Is it going to be sunny? It was sunny last year.
I've got 73 partly cloudy.
Okay, there you go.
Clearing up for the fireworks.
All right, thank you. All right. Okay, moving on. The second item of regular business is to review and consider approving the minutes from the following meetings. March 7th, 2024 regular meeting, the March 21st, 2024 special joint meeting with the Open Space Conservancy Trust, the April 4th, 2024 special joint meeting with the Open Space Conservancy Trust, and finally, the April 18th, 2024 special joint meeting with the Open Space Conservancy Trust. And Commissioners, may I have a motion to approve all 4 of these minutes?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so there's been a motion made by Commissioner McCarthy and seconded by Commissioner Hay. Commissioners, before we vote, does anyone have any questions or comments about any one of these minutes? Okay, hearing or seeing none. Commissioners, please turn on your microphones, and will city staff please conduct a roll call for the minutes?
Commissioner Westberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Hay,
Aye.
Commissioner McCarthy,
Aye.
Commissioner Cohen,
Aye.
Vice Chair Burstein,
Aye.
Chair Struck,
Aye.
Commissioner Markson.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. The motion passes and the minutes are approved. The third item on the agenda is chair and vice chair elections. And for that, we again welcome Recreation Manager and Staff Liaison Ryan Daly.
I will be turning this right back to you, Chair Struck. As a reminder, in your packet, there is a list of how to elect a chair or vice chair, and I encourage you to follow that one. I will remind the commission that you can operate on a two consecutive terms for the chair and vice chair, and Chair Struck and Vice Chair Burstein are both on their first term still.
Okay, thank you. Just to refresh everybody on the process to elect new officers as stated in the bylaws. Any commissioner may nominate a candidate for chair. No second is needed. Nominees may accept or decline the nomination. If only one nomination is made, it is appropriate to make a motion and obtain a second to instruct the staff liaison to cast a unanimous ballot for that nomination for chair. Approval is by majority vote of commissioners present. If more than one nomination is made, an open election is conducted by roll call vote. To be elected, a nominee needs a majority vote of the Parks and Recreation Commission. Elections will continue until a chair is elected by a majority vote of the Parks and Recreation Commission. The staff will declare the nominee receiving the majority vote as new chair, and then the process is repeated for the election of vice chair. So with that knowledge, I now open the floor for nominations for the position of chair. Please raise your hand if you'd like to make a nomination for chair. Commissioner Cohen.
I nominate Peter Struck for another term as chair.
Okay. Any other nominations? Hearing none, seeing none. Staff liaison, I think you record a unanimous.
I
Well,
am.
at least according to the information, somebody needs to make a motion to
excuse me, you're
direct
right,
the
you're right.
staff liaison to cast a unanimous ballot for
That's
Peter
right.
Struck for chair. So I'll make that motion.
Okay, and is there a second?
I will second.
Okay, thank you, Roy. Well,
Who made that motion? The original motion, was it Commissioner Cohen?
Cohen and Commissioner Westberg seconded. Okay, now we will instruct the staff liaison to connect. Let's see here. Yeah. To cast a unanimous vote for that nomination for chair. And
Chair McCarthy.
You have to vote.
You were, yeah.
oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Okay.
Aye.
Commissioner Hay,
Aye.
Commissioner Markson,
Aye.
Chair Struck.
Aye.
Vice Chair Burstein,
Aye.
Commissioner Westberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Cohen.
Aye.
Okay.
Welcome back, Chair Struck.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll go for vice chair now, and maybe this one will go a little smoother. So we are now for accepting nominations for vice chair of the Parks and Recreation Commission. Commissioner McCarthy,
I nominate Paul Burstein.
thank you. Any other nominations? Okay, seeing none, so we, do you want to make the motion then?
Yes. All right. I will direct the recreation manager to do the unanimous vote.
And is there a second for the motion?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second.
Commissioner Westberg,
Aye.
Vice Chair Burstein,
Aye.
Commissioner Commissioner Hay.
Aye.
You have great hair today. Commissioner Markson,
Aye.
Chair Struck.
Aye.
I'm still laughing about that. Commissioner McCarthy,
Aye.
Commissioner Cohen.
Aye.
Okay.
So when is Raven due back?
I might go pick her up right now.
All right. Congratulations, Paul. All right. Okay, we're all set on this one. So moving along. The fourth item is the King County Library System Mercer Island Branch Annual Update. And again, we welcome Recreation Manager Ryan Daly to kick us off.
Thank you, Chair Struck. I'm actually going to pass this right to King County Library System, Brian Candelori. As I'll remind everyone, and the Parks Commission serves as a forum for community input to KCLS, and annually we do an update, and I appreciate them attending, and I will pass it to them now. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Ryan. Nice to see you. Hi, Commissioner and council members. Thank you for having us. I want to pass it over to our director who is joining us, Heidi Daniel. She came and visited Mercer Island, which we'll cover in a bit, but I want to hand it over to her. Does she have, can she unmute, Ryan?
I can.
Oh, okay.
You hear me? Okay. Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Heidi Daniel. I'm the new executive director of King County Library System, which of course is the 50 branch library system throughout King County, of which we have a beautiful library on Mercer Island that I came out to visit, met with the friends of the library, met the mayor of Mercer Island, had a wonderful visit. I'm excited to be here. I moved here it's almost been 3 months. I came from Baltimore, Maryland, where I was the CEO of the Enoch Pratt Free Library System and Maryland State Library Resource Center, which is the 22 branch system of Baltimore City, as well as the state library for all of Maryland. And I am thrilled to be here and just wanted to make sure I had the opportunity to come this evening, say hello, and get a chance to meet you. And then really, I'm going to turn it back over to Brian to give you an update on the Mercer Island Library and all of its happenings. And I'm also happy to take questions if there are any for me specifically. Brian, I'll toss it back.
Sorry, I was seeing if there are any questions. All right, let's jump in. Ryan, do you have the slideshow?
I can pull it up for you. Hold on one second.
Let me see. I can, if I do, is it easier for me to share my screen, Ryan?
Yeah, you're more than welcome to. It's loading.
I wasn't sure if I was allowed to do that. Let me go ahead and load it right now. Yay. All right. Presenting Teams. All right.
And while Brian is loading that, I am happy to take any questions, or we can wait until the end if anyone has any questions for me about Mercer Island Library or future directions or anything like that.
Hi, this is Peter Struck. You said you've been here about 3 months. What's been your biggest surprise since you joined KCLS?
Well, I've been here about 3 months and I knew in advance how large King County was, but it has been surprising to me. I've gotten to about 38, 39 of our branches out of our 50 branches and just how incredibly spread out it is. Skykomish and Vashon are two libraries I haven't had a chance to visit yet. So that has been a surprise, but mostly it's been pleasant surprises overall. I love the Pacific Northwest so far. And I'm incredibly impressed with not only the quality of the library systems buildings and the communities and how engaged and involved the communities are, as well as our staff, just how dedicated they are to the communities they serve and in the public, how engaged they are with their communities, doing things like what Brian's doing this evening and presenting. So I have been really pleasantly surprised by all of that. And of course, I know that the communities all want more of King County Libraries, more hours, more time, more services. So, we'll be exploring that in our future endeavors and doing some community surveying and polling as well around hours so we can start to think about how we might look at those. I know everyone wants more, as well as, other staffing and challenges that came up during COVID that maybe we now would have a chance to look at and course correct on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are we still waiting on the?
Sorry, excuse me. I have it. Do we want to go through the presentation and see if there's any other questions after?
Yeah, why don't we go to the presentation?
Maybe we have some of the answers in it. Let's see. So present. All right, so let's see. I am not sharing my screen, am I? All right, here we go. Can you all see this?
Yes.
All right, great. So let's jump in. So thank you again for allowing me to join you guys this year. We had one of our colleagues run this through an AI simulator, and so of course you recognize the front area. Heidi joins us, who is literally joining us in this meeting, but she came out to meet Mayor Neese and Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum at the library in April. We're very excited that she's joining us. We have a National Endowment for the Humanities grant. We're the only public library to receive one. And it is to try to figure out how to mitigate some of the effects of climate change. That is in the process of being fleshed out. Excuse me. A second ago, I went down the wrong pipe. We also have rolled out a service strategy to align with the library's mission values and our commitment to DEI. This strategy is already starting to be implemented throughout Riverview, the region that Mercer Island is part of. I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself earlier. I am Brian Candelori, the Riverview Regional Manager. So the four big ones that we're focusing on are student success and lifelong learning, engaging with books and reading, obtaining trustworthy information, and making meaningful connections, which, as Ryan noted earlier, I helped a very small amount, but Lori and the Friends of the Library were out there in force the other day. So please feel free to drop by your local library. They are doing a great job. So KCLS continues to see an increase across its library system and its circulation digitally. We are, excuse me, we are the second in the nation for circulation of digital materials and third in the entire world. I think that's pretty awesome. To give you some, if we could zoom in for 1 second on Mercer Island. Mercer Island is only 1.5% of the entire KCLS service population. With that said, of all the visits to KCLS, Mercer Island punches above its weight. 2.3% of all visits to libraries in King County are at Mercer Island. We also have almost double our representation in digital circ from Mercer Island. So 3% of all of KCLS's digital circ comes from the residents based in Mercer Island. It's over here. So we're starting to see a return back to some level of normal. We have an increase in visits. We have an increase in computer sessions, and we are seeing an increase not just in new patrons, but as many of you are aware, Seattle Public Library is currently dealing with a cyber attack. So we are also seeing an increase in the number of folks coming to Mercer Island to pick up cards. We have reciprocal agreements that also allow for all of us as King County residents to get cards in Seattle and many other institutions. That's also part of your what your taxes are paying for. If you're not using that and you use the Libby app to get audiobooks or ebooks, that is a way to get faster access to different books. So I really recommend, if you're into it, you'll save some money doing that. So we have seen, while we have seen lowered physical item search, we have seen a big bump in, as you can see, all these other metrics that we use: physical items, digital, and 18% increase from 2022, which is pretty phenomenal in the library world. So some programming highlights that we're really proud of at Mercer Island are the story times at Mercer Island are exceptionally popular. Usually we are at probably fire code, if that's the term to use. We are at capacity in those rooms. We have class visits with our children's librarian, Ms. Tiger, which many of you may know by now. She does incredible programming. We have a lot of teens that are really engaged in the library in a way that I have rarely seen. And they started a Dungeons and Dragons, that is what the D&D stands for, something I have learned in the past year. So they actually, the teens of your island came to us and asked if they could start this club with our help. And we were like, yeah, sounds great, let's do it, let's get this going. So we have that going along with an open mic night. One of the things that we really want to make sure we're doing is serving and the needs of the community, but also listening. If your community comes to us and says this is something that is helpful to us, we try and do it. And we also have programming for adults. I know that there was an opera preview a bit ago. So for those of you who are into opera, I am personally a symphony man, but that is maybe something we'll cover in the questions. So where are we looking at in the next year? So we have Mandarin Storytime, which we're super psyched about. We have English language learners and culture programming with the Mercer Island Chinese Association, which we're very, very excited about. We also have a book club that we have started, and we're expanding more and more programming to fill the needs of your community. We're also developing adult programming. If you have ideas, what we're trying to do is build partnerships, and if we're keeping an eye out for more opportunities, but please keep checking our website and reaching out to us. This one last, I'm noticing it right now, is so passive programming is a pretty librarian term. And really what it means is that if you go to a library, many of you I'm sure have, you'll see sometimes either a puzzle out or some coloring sheets. It's a way to, especially in after school periods of time, the Mercer Island Library is packed. So if you go into that back right area where the teens typically are hanging out, and we try to keep that space exclusively for teens so that they feel safe there, and so parents feel safe allowing their teens to go there. We want to put out more and more things. We have a chessboard that's been out for a long time, but we've been really engaging them and asking them what it is they're looking for, and then just getting that thing for them. And as long as we're seeing it being utilized, we just keep getting more. So passive programming means that. A active program or a traditional program is like a story time where you come in and the librarian is singing and talking and dancing. So we've received some questions from the council and from patrons throughout Mercer Island, and we wanted to just make sure we answer them directly so there isn't any, why wasn't my question answered? So with library hours, this is something that Heidi, when she came out to meet with the mayor, the deputy, and the Friends group that we addressed. As a librarian, I can tell you I'm always very happy to hear that people want more and more of our services. Right now, our budgetary constraints do not allow for us to further expand hours. I will say that I am a personal huge user of Libby. That's available 24 hours a day. On a local level, we've gotten questions about what kind of programming and services we're providing to the Mercer Island community. So there's been, including me, I started at KCLS 20 months ago. We've hired a number of new folks, many of whom have come from outside and within King County, to try to beef up the programming that we're providing and the services to the communities that we serve. So we identify community needs by trying to do what we call a co-creation model. So one of the things that we're very interested in doing is not just saying, hey, what do you want? It's trying to find someone in the community that specifically fulfills that need. So for instance, the Mercer Island Chinese Association is doing a weekly ESL program. That is a partnership. That is not us just going into a room. I can tell you when I worked at Queens Library, we did something similar, but it wasn't the same. We didn't have a partner organization. This is a new way of trying to engage with the folks in your communities and truly bring them in. So we have also, something I'm very excited to talk about is something called the, I hope not too many of you have fallen asleep yet, because I think this is super exciting, the Lean Library Project. So we brought someone in and we were looking at why is it taking, what is the delay in terms of getting our books from when we get them delivered to the shelves. And this was something that we were consistently hearing patrons bring up. So our former head of collections, Tracy Thompson, went through this process. And we have reduced turnaround for materials from 5+ weeks to under 1 week for just under 50% of our materials, which is an incredible thing to do. So we now have books coming in and getting onto your hold shelf, which Mercer Island is a huge user of, faster and faster so that you can get those resources. When it comes to, we've had a few different questions thrown at us around staff and patron safety. Most of them we've tried to directly answer when brought to our attention, but the Riverview region has Skyway, it has Renton, Highlands, Newcastle, Issaquah, and Mercer all in it. Within the Riverview region, Mercer has by far and away the least incidents that we have on file. In the last year, we have confirmed that there have been no significant threats to staff or patron safety that have been brought to our attention. We do ask if these things are happening that you come to us. We have ways of handling them and making sure that they're addressed. We don't want anyone to feel unsafe in our libraries. We definitely have gotten a lot of questions around especially high school volunteers. So community involvement, volunteers, all of these things are, again, things that grow a librarian's heart. We are a union environment, so we have 4 different contracts within the entire library system. So we have a definition of what we can do in terms of volunteer work, and that is something that we are still trying to work on fleshing out. As a few of you who I've spoken to know, getting staff alone, if you've been to restaurants and other things, just getting staff in our buildings sometimes is a challenge, let alone organizing. We would need to organize the volunteers, and that's something that we are working towards, but it's more of a medium-term project. So we've also received, lastly, questions about collections, and collections in library land means just books, materials, DVDs, etc. So part of what librarianship does is it makes sure that the information on the shelves is as accurate as possible. The thing I always think of is I'm somewhat giving away the years I went to school, but I remember the Soviet Union collapsed right as I was entering 1st grade. And I remember 3rd grade, all of the maps and books still had the USSR up on it. So it was the responsibility of a librarian at some point in that library to update the materials, right? that's one of the things that we also do. Hopefully we don't have any Soviet Union materials in terms of maps like that is current, but we have ways of going throughout our collection and making sure that the books on it are the books that your community wants. And that is what we are trying to do when we get questions about these things. Throughout the country right now, there's a lot of challenges to books. Tracy Thompson, again, our just recently retired collections manager, helped pilot a collections challenge policy, which I do not mind saying I think is one of the best that I've seen in the country. And yeah, I think that answers most of the questions, I hope, but more than happy to talk about more. So yeah, that's all I have for you. And Heidi and I are here and happy to answer any questions you all may have.
Thank you very much, Brian. Commissioners, do you have any questions of KCLS staff that are available?
Brian, would you mind stop sharing? Thanks.
Commissioner Hay.
Yeah, thanks for that presentation, Brian. Our family has really enjoyed using the library for so many of those things that you mentioned. And you referenced a challenge, a book challenge nationwide at the moment, or maybe it's been going on for a while. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit more to that, what that is, what the impact on KCLS is.
Yeah, Heidi, do you want to take it or you want me to jump in?
Sure. I mean, either one, I can take it. Are we speaking specifically about challenges to the collection or challenges of providing materials in the collection? Just to clarify.
Is that a question for me?
Yeah,
Or-
yes. Sorry, like
Yeah, in the presentation, when you were discussing the collection, that you referenced a nationwide challenge. And I don't know if it was in getting books or in, providing a variety of books. I was just wondering if you could speak more to what that is and how it affects our library system.
Absolutely. So I can talk about both of those things because they're both impactful. I'm not just really quickly. So one, there is nationwide right now. I'm sure many of you are aware. A lot of challenges to the collection in terms of just books that are, for whatever reason, people don't agree with, right? So books that have been banned a number of times, those can be books that are offensive politically to someone, offensive personally to someone. So there has been a move across the country for libraries to remove books that have people disagree with from their shelves. We have a collection reconsideration material process for things that are, so we can make sure that when books are challenged or questioned, that they aren't actually not within our collection standards or aren't inappropriate. But for the most part, our staff is very careful and considerate about following our collection materials policy for selection and collection to the letter. So we have a wide variety of materials on our shelves for a wide variety of interests. And of course, it's within individuals' determination to what they select to read or don't choose to read. But there is nationally a challenge to most libraries at the moment in terms of book banning and collection. We haven't seen a huge amount of it here at KCLS, thankfully. And I think that is also one of the things that I've noted about King County in general is that it's an incredibly well-read community overall and, highly educated. You can see that reflected in our great circulation numbers. So I think that has, also helped buffer us from some of the challenges to materials, because in general, people understand that they're coming to the library to get a wide range of viewpoints, and that our job isn't to provide one viewpoint or another, but to provide all viewpoints in a way that is respectful and thoughtful of the communities we're serving. And then the second piece of why it's a challenge for us to get books, this is particularly around e-materials. So we have a large challenge right now because publishers in general we are not allowed to buy the electronic materials. So if you are using our ebook collection, it's through Libby, right? Which is Overdrive, is the company that owns Libby. And we actually lease those materials from them. And in general, each of the publishers sets a limitation to the amount of times a book can circulate, how often we have to repurchase it, and we have to treat each book like it is an individual book. So even though it's an ebook, we have to provide it as if though it was a physical book, one user per copy, and we have to replace it after a certain amount of time. So for some publishers, they might say after, a year it has to be repurchased, or after a certain number of times it circulates, it would have to be repurchased. In general, we would be repurchasing books if they were physical, if they were out of shape, if they were no longer, we didn't need as many in the collection, we might be purchasing new replacement copies. But it certainly is at the library's discretion, whereas with ebooks, it's not. It's at the publisher's discretion of when we have to replace those. And we pay significantly more for those ebooks than an individual would pay. So I might buy a book on, Amazon for my Kindle for $15, and then the library may be paying $35 to $40 for that, sometimes up to $100 or more for a copy of an ebook. If it's going to be widely circulated. So these are some of the challenges we have. I know there's some frustration always in most library systems where I've worked in terms of the wait time, particularly around e-materials. And so we just also need the public to understand that some of this are limitations that are placed on us by the publishers and the industry itself. And because they're so much more expensive, it can be very hard for us to buy a specific number of copies. Because it's more expensive, right? And that does take a toll on our budget. And as our e-material use increases significantly, we start to see that crunch between, because in King County, the great thing is our physical circ is also not going down. So we have this great, wonderful problem of needing to not reduce our physical collection budget while also increasing our ebook collection. So those are two of the challenges that we have that definitely impact King County. In different ways. Does that answer the question?
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none. I think we'll call this one a wrap. I want to thank you very much for coming, and Heidi, again, welcome to the Northwest. Look to see you around, and Brian, thank you for coming back, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to the fifth item on the agenda, which is the Recreation Division Annual Report. And Recreation Manager Ryan Daly will lead us on this topic.
Thank you, Chair Struck. I'm sharing our presentation right now. Perfect. Let's see here. Right. Thank you. So tonight we're going to talk really briefly. I'm joined by a few of our staff members, Alex Lee, our facilities supervisor, and Katie Herzog, our recreation supervisor, as well as Jeremy Jasmine, our business systems analyst here at the community center and for the recreation division. So tonight we're going to cover a couple of items. We're going to talk about who is the recreation division, what we did over the last year, and provide a 2024 update, not a 23. I'm going to talk about 23 for a while, and then we'll give an update on 24. So who are we? We've covered this for the previous presentations about the annual report, but we're 18 full-time and part-time staff who really strive on delivering life-improving recreation programs, focusing on creating access and opportunities for our community members, connecting our community members and neighborhoods together, supporting those community organizations. We've actually been referencing a few of those tonight already. And then we're also always seeking improvement. And a lot of that comes from a lot of conversations we have with community members, the city council, the Parks and Rec Commission, and all of our other boards and commissions as well. So talking a little bit more about who we are and a couple of changes from 2022. That constant improvement is something that's ingrained in our city staff and also really focused on our team here in the recreation division. Coming out of the pandemic and moving forward with the recreation reset strategy, we were really focused on flexibility. So one thing we've learned in our division is we don't get too comfortable in our positions because at any time we could be doing something else. But one of the things we did transitioning from 22 to 23 was we promoted a recreation coordinator to supervisor, and that was Katie Herzog. We converted a recreation coordinator to an analyst, and that's Jeremy Jasmine. And then we moved the recreation specialist to support boards and commissions. And that's Raven Gillis, and I think we've all recognized a lot of the support she's provided us. And as Commissioner Cohen noted earlier, we can't wait to get her back from training. So first I'm going to talk a little bit about the administration functional area, and that includes myself as recreation manager, portions of our respective recreation supervisor and facility supervisor, and then also that recreation specialist in Raven. So what did we do? This area is responsible for the division's budget, prioritizing resources, developing policies, establishing and reviewing the division work plan, and supporting citywide emergency operations. So just a couple of highlights. One big highlight, and this is a pretty large lift, is we completed the 2022 division report last year. It grew, it had changed from 2021, so that was a large undertaking. We extended and revised our agreement with Pay by Phone, and that's how we collect boat pass fees. We expanded the use of our Civic Optimize software. That's our registration software or request forms for the community center, athletic fields. We're going to be expanding that even further here in the next year as well. We implemented some really simple tools around availability viewing for the community center. We supported the opening and communication for the bike skills area. We restructured the division, as I mentioned earlier, to meet more emergent needs and actual, maybe more specific needs here at the community center. And we developed and implemented the Groveland Park capacity limit for Seafair. And you'll recall that that's when we limited the access to that park facility, something we've never done here on Mercer Island, to both promote safety and also take care of that neighborhood aspect that those residents have. And then we provided ongoing support in response to the closure of City Hall. I think you all know what you did this last year, and it was no small lift, approving the 30% design recommendation to the City Council for the bike skills area, design recommendation for the Aubrey Davis Trail Safety Project, providing the policy for a draft City Council park naming policy. We recommended to City Council the preferred court configuration, endorsed the P-patch guidelines, adopted new bylaws, significantly revised bylaws, completed that parliamentary procedure training, and of course attended the grand opening of the bike skills area. Additionally, the administration functional area supports the Arts Council, who endorsed the City Arts and Culture Work Plan for the year, or for this biennium, approved the RFQ and process for the Luther Burbank waterfront improvements, approved the artist for those improvements for the art in public places, approved the events committee to move forward with choosing a summer celebration t-shirt design from last year, and also recommended to the City Council the art in public places project for the Luther Burbank project. So now I'm going to pass it off to Alex Lee, our recreation facility supervisor, to talk a little bit about the community center and the happenings there.
Perfect. Thanks, Ryan. So as you can see here on the community center side, we have Jeremy, our business systems analyst, and then we have various levels of recreation assistants that work in our building, all the way down to recreation aides and an assistant as our casual labor throughout the building. They're massive support for what we do here, and they're very much all appreciated in the work that they provide here in the building. We returned last year to pre-pandemic rental volumes. Quite an undertaking, I think, by our staff here. 1,785 bookings total for 6,012 hours. We had over 15,000 participants drop in for our drop-in sports down in the gym. And then we had over 5,000 visitors to the fitness center. And that is including the fitness center being closed for 6 months.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Oh, yeah,
The chart
I
there on the
forgot.
right.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. So the chart on the right is a description of the facility usage that we have in our building. And so the two green colors there are basically our rentals that we have for either the private events in the meeting rooms in the Mercer room or our gym rentals. And then the other part is basically city programs, rentals, anything that has to do with the city of Mercer Island. And so as you can see, there's a massive chunk of what we do in the building is city sponsored or city programmed. And I think there's times where we've here at the front desk that maybe we don't offer enough or we don't have enough or the building is just rentals. And I think that with this chart, it kind of shows that we are not just rentals. We have a lot more that happens in the building. And I think that's important. This pie chart there shows that, we have a massive amount of usage that is just city events. And then obviously with the closure of City Hall, that increased some of our city rentals here in the building as well, including obviously this room being taken offline and used for council and commission meetings and yeah. And then this chart here shows our gym space usage. And again, you can see that the three small light gray little pie pieces there, those are just rentals. So everything else on there is our programs, our offerings. And so that is, what is that, 11% or something, 9%. So 9% of our usage down in the gym is rentals. The rest of the usage is our offerings and our programs that we provide the community here at the community center. So again, a good majority of what we offer here in the gym goes to the community. So they have the ability to play some drop-in sports and have some fun. Oh, that picture's throwing me off. Sorry. Okay. It's so last year we expanded after hours access. And so that's where a lot of the gym rentals that you saw on that last page kind of come into. And then a lot of our rentals are also have some of that after hours access. And then the good thing we've done as well here, just on the after hours access is if we're here in the building and we have a rental in the gym or the Mercer room, we do primarily let community members come in and use open space if they want to, even if we're technically not open. And so I think that's a good thing that we've been able to expand as well. We've utilized partnerships to increase offerings. We've supported the YFS Foundation Breakfast and then Rotary and Chamber events as well. We've adapted operations to support citywide functions with the closure of City Hall. So that obviously comes into play with this room. And then our expanded meeting rooms that we have for our city staff to come and be able to meet in person. And then we provided a cooling and warming center functions while maintaining preparation as an emergency shelter as well.
Okay, then we get to move on to my section of recreation programs and events. You can see there's a recreation coordinator, which primarily does all of the scheduling for our outdoor locations, so athletic fields, picnic shelters, those special event permits, and then a recreation specialist who primarily assists with those programs and events that are city coordinated. So what did we do? We offered 15 different summer camp options, which served just about 1,600 registrations last summer. We permitted 39 third-party events in the park. So those are those private events that happen in our spaces. We sponsored 5 events through the special event sponsorship program, which were 5 additional community events. And we oversaw the P-Patch, which has 48 users last year. So this slide, you can see the wide array of events that happened in 2023 on Mercer Island. Our city coordinated events, just to name a few, of course, Summer Celebration, our Illuminate MI, Leap for Green, all the events that you heard again tonight that are happening again this year. And then those partnered events. So we held some senior lunches here at the facility, partnered with the chamber for a women's wellness event, as well as a holiday market that took place in our gym. And we sponsored special events. Those are those additional 5 for the community. Youth Theater Northwest had a couple in Mercerdale Park, Swim Across America at Luther Burbank, and of course, Art on Court that happens each year.
Katie, if I can, I'm just going to clarify real quick on these 3 different types of events. But for the commission, if you think about city coordinated events, that's Katie actually being the person who's putting that together, and she may go out and get some assistance or some partners in different ways, but she's owning that event, or the city is owning that event. Partnered events are a little bit different in that it's generally an idea or a program or an event that's coordinated by somebody else, but we're excited. We're like, hey, we want to be involved. And so we jump on as a partner and support that, either in providing maybe facility space, maybe some staffing support, something along those lines. But these generally have their own insurance and they operate on their own. And then we have the sponsored special events, and that's through that special event sponsorship policy, where we provide them access to a space, maybe reduce the fees in some way according to that policy, and then we step back and we don't have as much or any responsibility in the actual coordination. So I just wanted to help share that's a question we often wrestle with here internally. But thanks, Katie.
Mm-hmm. You're in charge. And then this slide is about those outdoor facility rentals that I mentioned that our recreation coordinator oversees. We had 143 picnic rentals. Those spaces include Luther Burbank Park, Aubrey Davis Park, the picnic shelter, and then an additional shelter at Dean's Children's. The 20 special event permits were issued. So in contrast to the community events, these are private events that may be picnics in the park or organizations coming in with a private event. And then our athletic field rentals, 7,549 hours, which was 2,562 bookings. And that includes the South Mercer fields, unavailable in early 2023 for all of the new turf fields that we now get to book. You'll notice on the graph that tier 1, that's our Mercer Island youth recreation-based rentals. They're taking, as you can see, the majority of our field and hours. That also includes the high school, or the school district usage, and the Boys and Girls Club, all of their programs and teams.
All right, and I'll bring us home with the 2024 preview, and then happy to take any questions. But this year is off to a really great start. Despite some challenges we've had with City Hall being closed and some impacts, significant impacts to the recreation division, we are off to a great start. And a big part of that, it's amazing what happens when you start a year with a full team and an excellent team, and that's really transitioned us to offering the level of services I think that we're offering right now, which is outstanding. One of the things, and Alex was starting to talk about this a little bit in his discussion around the community center, is those extended hours. We're seeing a lot of that lately, actually carrying over from last year into this year. Typically, we're not closing these doors at 7 p.m. Like it says on the door. We're open generally until 9:30. Which requires additional staffing resources. And we're seeing more and more Sunday rentals as well, which is outstanding. It's great to get, especially the groups that are coming in, most of which are recreational based. And so it's community groups that are using this facility. And one of the things we identified with our some savings we've had early in this year is the addition of an additional LTE recreation assistant. And that's our front desk staff who really runs this facility on a regular basis. And so bringing in that individual, he actually started, last week, I think. We're all breathing a whole lot easier now in our ability to accept rentals. We were getting to a point where we were having to decline some because we just didn't have the resources to open up on a Sunday or multiple individuals. It's not just one person who unlocks the building. We have a number of protocols that we follow. And so that addition has been extremely helpful to us and is really going to carry us through the summer and through the end of the year. The other thing that we're looking at that's going really well is we're on pace to exceed our 23 revenues for the community center, as well as for rentals and for drop-ins. So we're off to a really great booking start. Some of that goes back to the implementation of the Civic Optimized forms, our ability to process things much quicker. I think we're seeing that instantaneous booking is capturing more bookings than maybe we were in the past. So that's a definite efficiency as well as a customer service element that's being offered. Hey, we're back in person. This feels really good. It's great to see everybody walk in. So having the Parks and Rec Commission, the Open Space Conservancy Trust, and the Arts Council back in this room and getting together in person is much more accessible to the community. I think that's an excellent start, and we're going to continue rolling that forward for other boards and commissions as well. Summer celebration, as we talked about earlier, as well as some of our other events, and the number of events that we're offering, we continue to grow there through our community partnerships. Summer camp registrations, as I mentioned, is slow. That's one of the challenges we're experiencing this year that maybe is different than what we were anticipating. We're seeing senior age opportunities. Heard from a little birdie that the golf program was full and had to slow down registration. I think that highlights the need for programming for our senior and adult age groups here on the island. And I think that's something we're going to continue to focus on as a community center as well as a recreation division to continue to offer those opportunities and expand those opportunities. And part of that is just how we go about doing it. And that's implementing those new and expanded partnerships with groups like Friendship Circle. If you're familiar with them, they're a regular. In the past, they were a rental with us. Katie and Alex have been working with them to make them a program, which gives the recreation division as well as Friendship Circle a little bit more buy-in to each other's resources. And so we're going to support each other in a couple of different ways there, specifically with the use of facility space. And then we've been working with the Mercer Island Chinese Association, as is KCLS, and a number of school-based groups, which if you were familiar with the 5K that occurred down at Luther Burbank, that's a high school group. And then there's also a number of other, the Juneteenth and the Pride in the Park events that occur there. So just wanted to highlight that. The other thing, and this is an excellent question, I think, from a commissioner, or maybe it wasn't a question, I started to answer it as such over email, and that's how do we decide what programs we offer? Well, one of the ways we do that is through the pros plan, the recreation reset, and conversations there. But how do they actually come to be? And that occurs through the biannual budget process. So what we do is we get some early direction from city council, generally at the planning session, on where our resources should be allocated in the following biennium. We work through a series of proposals that then go forward to the city council. Over last time we did it, it was about 5 council meetings, and that's how funding is allocated for those services. So when we talk about expanding services and things like that, maybe not individual programs, but program offering areas, that's the process that allocates those resources to see those through to fruition. So just wanted to talk about that real briefly so that we all kind of understand where we're at, and we're starting to get into that budget conversation right now. City council will have their first crack at that at I believe, a draft budget, or at least a review of what that budget situation looks like probably early fall. So looking at maybe mid to late September. So happy to stop sharing and take any questions.
Peter?
Yeah, Commissioner, keep going.
On page 16 of the report, there, it refers to requests being received for city coordinated recreation programs that are beyond allocated resources. what kinds of programs do you hear people requesting that you're unable to provide now for whatever reason?
Katie, I'd love for you to take that question.
Yeah, Ryan kind of touched on it, but we do hear, senior programming. Previously, we had a whole slew of senior classes and programs and fitness opportunities. So primarily those senior classes that we just are currently not offering. And another big piece of kind of, our rec reset in the pyramid that we go off of is preschool and preschool families, preschool age programs to bring them to our facilities.
Commissioner McCarthy.
Thank you. I just have two things that I just wanted follow-ups on. I just wanted to check in, where are we on the Aubrey Davis Trail thing? Is that ever gonna come back and like actually happen? That's my first one, and then I have another.
The Aubrey Davis Trail
Yeah.
project.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't have a great update on that. It is on Let's Talk. It is moving forward in the next month or so is when we're mobilizing. So I'd have to go back and look at the Let's Talk page, but that is progressing forward.
Okay, I think so. I was just curious about that. And then my second thing was, I just was wondering how it's going with the P patch this year, and it seems pretty smoothly, or?
Yeah, our recreation coordinator is very active with the gardeners and, makes a point to head on up the hill each week to go check in on it. But the guidelines that, you all put in place, I think have been very helpful for staff first and foremost. But the gardeners are following them, and I think they appreciate having, some clear guidelines and expectations to, make it harmonious up there. So it's going great.
Awesome, thanks.
Commissioner Cohen again.
I'm looking at these numbers on page 4, particularly 2023 actual versus budgeted. And the MICEC rentals are great, right? Or were great, $180 thousand in the black. But if you didn't have that, you are much lower than budget on grants, boat launch, ball fields, drop-ins, recreation programs, camps, and donations / miscellaneous revenues. Wonder what that all tells you, and if there's anything that you're doing, because if suddenly there were a drop-off on the community center revenue, you would be in trouble if the other things didn't pick up the slack.
Excellent question. So couple parts to the answer. One, I think our numbers were in some areas very ambitious and maybe not as ambitious enough in others. And so thinking about the community center, I think that we should have had those numbers higher to recognize the volume that we were going to see. And so that kind of answers that part of the question. On the grants, sponsorships, I think we were overshooting, for lack of a better term. What we're seeing this year, and I think this is part of the change and something maybe we identified last year mid-year, was the need for that sponsorship policy, which has seemingly brought us in some more sponsorships here in 2024. Looking at the boat launch, that was the construction down there. So we had lost half of the spots. We'll actually get, the recreation division get that difference. So, but and Jeremy, you might remember, is it King County? We get reimbursed for that difference between the boat launch there for those vacant spots because it was used for staging. So the city does recoup those funds. We don't necessarily get credit for it here on the recreation side, but that does come forward. There was another major one in there that I wanted to touch on. Well, ball fields, let me touch on that really quick. So the ball fields, when you look at the way our budget works, so it shows the turf replacement sinking fund. and ball fields, the turf replacement sinking fund actually isn't in our budget as a line item. It's included in the ball field. So that's why we add that extra line there to show the amount that we debit out of that ball field line into the turf sinking fund. That helps us track the revenues, those actual revenues that are coming in there. Commissioner Cohen, did I miss any?
I don't know, but I appreciate the information. Thank you.
I'll just kind of wrap that up, even though you didn't ask. For the next biennium, we have a much, much better grasp, I think, on where we are as an organization. When the 2022 budget was being developed, I'll say I got a few of these gray hairs thinking about it because we just didn't know exactly where we were going to end up. I probably would have bet we would have hit those summer camp numbers just based on information I had from the previous year and what I felt was a community need. What's interesting is there's certain areas that we're just not hearing that some of those are actually the need. So you're going to see us, and here's an early preview, you're going to see our team shaking up things a bit in 2024. We've already done some of these items with our recreation specialists to put resources to the areas of need. And you're seeing some of that right now with the senior programs that are being offered, as well as some of our family programs like family movie nights and things like that weren't contemplated originally, but we've been able to kind of restructure things to be able to meet those needs.
I have a
Okay.
follow-up question.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. So some of the discrepancies between 2023 budget and actual was because the budgeted amounts turned out not to be achieved. I mean, they were optimistic or, not based on good, reliable information. So I I'm ashamed to admit that I don't have the 2024 budget committed to memory, but so did you have these numbers well enough developed in order to be able to do whatever is in the 2024 budget on some of these major areas?
In 24, halfway through, you're going to see some of the same discrepancies, I think, just based on how the numbers were developed with inflationary factors. So thinking about summer camps, for example, great example. We know our summer camp number or revenue number for 2024 is higher than it is in 2023. And we know that our numbers our actuals aren't going to get to that. But I do know another thing, that our community center is doing exactly the same thing they did in 23 and exceeding those numbers. So there's a bit of a, I don't want to call it luck, but it's shaking out to be very, I guess, give a little in one area and take a little more in another. What we track very closely is not so much where our individual revenues are coming in. That factors into the services we offer. But what we really are watching is relative to the expense, where we are with our revenues. So if our revenues are down, and this is why I love recreation, is we know if our revenues are down, our expenditures should be down as well. And that's kind of where I was going with the community center of, we know sometimes we have to ramp up some of our expenditures to meet those needs for rentals. But if those rentals weren't there, you'd see us ramping down on the staffing as well. So it kind of fluctuates that way.
Did the council and city manager ever entertain requests to amend your budget if it looks like some major areas are not going to be achieved or are going to overachieve? Or is that a no-no?
I like to think our city manager is very open, and our city, I don't want to speak for the city council, but I don't know that they've ever said, you're crazy, don't bring a request forward. I think they've been very open and honest in what potentially the ability is, but I would look to Councilmember Reynolds to speak to that.
Yeah, Commissioner Cohen didn't have his mic on, I don't think, so I couldn't hear the question.
So sorry about that. The question was, if you are seeing significant discrepancies on the horizon, either positive or negative, does the city council and the city manager, do they entertain requests from the department to consider an amended budget in some way or another, or is that a no-no? And I know there are different philosophies in different public entities on that kind of subject.
Yeah, we generally go through a budget amendment process about once a quarter. I don't recall that that's come up recently for park stuff, but generally I don't think it happens unless there's a need to spend extra money. If we're living within the staffing levels we've got, that doesn't usually come up through a budget amendment. I don't know if that helps at all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll just highlight and kind of jump onto that. The last time the Recreation Division did this or did a sort of an amendment was back in 2021 when we were coming out of the pandemic. We had just finished up the recreation reset and we were ready to hit go. We went back to the city council mid-year and were allocated the funds to carry out the recreation reset plan.
Okay, and I'll just also make a general comment that the council will be beginning our budget process in the fall, if I recall correctly, September or so. If the Parks Commission feels that there are significant enhancements to services that are appropriate or necessary for this group to make that requires staffing changes, you should probably make that opinion known and make a recommendation.
Thank you. I'll take it to Alex, regarding community center drop-ins. I think you, in one of your slides, you showed about 15,000 in 22 and a 15.5 or so in 23. Question I have is, what do you consider capacity right now that you'd be kind of 100% maxed out and you'd say no more? Is it 16,000? Is it 20? Have you ever thought of it that way?
Not necessarily in capacity in the sense of like what's the total number we can get to. I think that pickleball, for example, is one that on some days reaches probably the capacity level that I could have in the court. I mean, we could probably offer pickleball, every day of the week for 6 hours and have full courts, a lot of days. So I don't know if there's ever a capacity number though. It really just depends on kind of what we're offering. We try to offer, a diverse set of sports down there. Some of them are, like pickleball is really high. Some are a little bit lower. Senior gym walking is one where, we do have some regulars that come in, but we don't see, we maybe see 4 or 5 a session. So I don't know if there's a capacity number that we would ever really get to be honest with you. Pickleball is really the only sport where I would say that there are days where we've reached probably too many players down there on the court.
Okay, thank you.
I'll add to that and just kind of in a different way. One of the, looking at the number of participants we currently have in our drop-in programs and the hours of facility time dedicated to drop-in programs is significant. One of the things that I can foresee in the future that we're going to have to contemplate as a recreation division is that balance between recreation programs that I'm hoping are coming in the next biennium and drop-in programs. So you think of your Tai Chi classes and maybe those active gym registered classes, senior fitness classes that we had offered pre-pandemic that were very successful. Something has to come out of the gym to be able to offer those. So there could be a scenario where some of that overall participation number in drop-in programs reduces, but you're going to see an increase in other participants in other ways. What Alex has done with the community center currently, and I think this is the right approach, is he's focused the hours during the day, our operational hours, on Mercer Island residents and access to the gym. Those other users, those rentals, they're starting at 7 o'clock at night. So they're oftentimes having to pay those extended hours fees to access the facility. So there's going to be a little bit of a reshuffle, I think, over time based on desire and need for programs.
Thank you.
I think
actually
did.
Go
ahead, sure. Okay.
Commissioner Markson.
I have a couple questions, but so the first one is, do you have a cost recovery goal?
For the overall department,
Mhm.
our cost recovery goal is really focused upon the individual programs offered. So within those tiers is really where our focus is.
Okay, so not
Yeah.
the overall number.
Right.
Okay. This is maybe, I'm thinking more about the things that I didn't see in the report. Like, I think it's amazing, all the stuff the Recreation Division has done. It's really good for the community. So, but this, like, I think there's some things that I'm curious where I would hear more about them. And I think that, like, for example, the Aubrey Davis Trail is a good example. Like, is there a Parks Division report that?
You're reading my mind.
Okay.
So, yeah, not yet.
Okay.
But what I am inserting into our work plan for 25, 26 is the development and integration of a parks work plan, the parks report with recreation.
Okay.
So that's, we're looking toward an integration for the 25 year. Some of this is going to play out with some changes we're making to our financial system and how we can track things a little bit more effectively.
Okay. Yeah, I was just, as I was looking at the measures of success and thinking about a lot of
Mhm.
things that we talk about, just, it struck me that some of the
Yes.
things aren't there. So,
And then, you know, thinking about Aubrey Davis, the trail projects and things like that,
yeah,
those updates typically come through in December in the capital project update from Jason Kittner.
okay.
Yeah. So we kind of separated that out a bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
And maybe just to plant an idea, if it's not already there in your head, is, you know, it would be nice from my perspective to see something like, I like the measures of success for recreation. They make a lot of sense, but like if we're looking at parks, I mean, is there something equivalent like trees planted or, you know, maybe you added trails somewhere or trails maintained or any of that kind of stuff?
Absolutely.
All right, thanks.
No, I appreciate those comments because I think that, and we'll have a conversation as a Parks Commission when we start to get to redeveloping that that report. The park side of the house does do a report annually for Pioneer Park specifically for the Open Space Conservancy Trust. My conversations with the parks manager, Sam Harb, has been how do we take that, add the parks section and the recreation section and make it into maybe a one-stop shop, so to speak.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Hayden, do you have?
Well, yeah, I just had a comment, no questions, but this is really, really impressive and you have done so much. So I just want to say thank you because that was a pretty short presentation and yet it packed a ton in there and there's so much more inside, outside, the events for the community. It's really an invaluable service that you're providing to the community from toddler to seniors and looking back at the past 4 years and what you've done it is really amazing. Sorry, my mic keeps going out here, but what I've seen is an incredibly flexible team that can pivot when something surprising has come their way. You've been creative, resourceful, and extremely responsive to the community, what they need, what they want. And, you know, I love seeing the revenue and expenditure. The revenue has a lot of variability in it, as we would expect, but it's interesting to see those trends. And then we would expect quite a bit of variability in the past 4 years. So it's interesting to see that. And then the expenditures, which is something you're more able to control, is very little variability in that. So you're doing an amazing job. Thank you. I personally enjoy all of the events so much. So thanks.
Thank you. And thank you to the commission for just outstanding support and community engagement. It does make our job so much easier and this is a great community to work with. So thank you.
Okay, any other?
Yeah. I did.
Okay, Paul.
So, awkward coming after that great thank you, but I do have a question, thinking about the next biennium. Are you anticipating staff expansion to expand the hours of access, particularly here in the community center? So more open hours, evening hours, weekend hours, so it's just general access to the facility?
Excellent question. And thank you for putting me on the spot with that question right now. No, first I'm going to start by giving Alex excellent credit for how he manages this facility. The flexibility of the staff to meet different hours, different schedules. The schedules are weird here. And we love toying with it. I mean, we love playing with schedules, figuring out how we can get the most bang for our buck, lack of a better term. I do anticipate that we're going to have to ask for additional resources in the following year to maintain the level of service we're currently offering. I don't want to speak for Alex, but I will a little bit. I don't think we anticipated the level of after hours and Sunday usage that we get. And the best part of that is we have a cost recovery philosophy that identifies those costs immediately, and we know exactly what it costs to operate this facility. And so that's a real benefit to us. So the direction I've been given is sort of a status quo budget to move forward. We'll see where that shakes out as we go forward. I love looking at the current allocations we have and finding ways to be more effective and more efficient with the resources we have and expanding operations in the same way. And I think we've done an excellent job of that over 1.5 biennium right now. So that's a long-winded answer to fingers crossed. But we're going to find a way to continue to operate this facility at the level it currently is, which includes those extended hours and hopefully offer a few more recreation programs in the process.
Can I follow up on that? Sorry. The only thing I want to follow up on is that one thing that we have done, I think, to kind of follow is if we do have, let's say, like a Mercer room event on a Sunday, you've noticed that we've started adding Sunday drop-in events. So we're taking advantage of us already being in the building for something else and increasing some of that drop-in access because we already have staff and people in the building. So we're trying to find avenues here to increase some of that community access when somebody else is already paying to be here anyway.
Commissioner Cohen.
This is a follow-up on Ashley's comment, laudatory comments, well-deserved. As far as getting the good word out, I know that staff tends to say, this is on Let's Talk, so this is on Let's Talk. I noticed in the community survey results that Let's Talk was not the top thing. In fact, it was, at best, it was third because it was things like next door or city, the regular city updates and things like that. So I've always, I personally have always wondered about how effective Let's Talk is and what kind of people look at Let's Talk, or how do they find out, for example, Alex, that the community center is going to be open for drop-in on Sunday because there's some other event there. You might have said, well, it would be posted on Let's Talk, and so, but I'm not talking just about that availability. I'm talking about the good, the good work that you do.
Yeah, I think you, Commissioner Cohen, you're highlighting a challenge for us, I think, as city staff in some degree. We know that Nextdoor is a platform that's used by many residents, and we do have a presence on there as an organization, but it's much different. One ask I would have is if we could stop having these crazy emergencies, we could get out better. We could focus our information on really good things that are happening, but that hasn't been in the cards. One of the other areas, and this is something that I'm actually really proud of with this facility, we don't spend a lot of marketing dollars on this facility. It's a lot of word of mouth. One of the problems with that, and maybe this is where your comments were going, is the average individual in the community doesn't necessarily know what's happening in the recreation division. We had lost the use of that, the recreation guide, you know, the pamphlet that went out. That was something that we haven't been doing. We'll be bringing that back in some fashion in the following year, maybe even later on this year. But that takes time and resources that we don't necessarily currently have. So I think that your point is well taken. I think we need to have a focus on how do we get more community engagement and conversation, and what does that platform look like that can be well shared. Only some people use Facebook. Majority or many people are using Nextdoor, but not all. How do we create that communication hub? And we're having conversations with local partners on that as well.
The people that I know are sort of consistent with what the community survey showed, that they tend to use Nextdoor, or they get informed by the city stuff that Mason, Rivera, or whoever is in that role puts out. And I'm sure there are other people who use other things, but that's what I see the people that I talk to use.
I was just going to add, while, you know, it is hard to reach everyone, our social media platforms, Facebook and Instagram, where we have our individual Parks and Recreation pages versus the City of Mercer Island pages, we get to see, you know, how many people are liking it, how many are sharing it, how many did we reach in those boosted posts, how many new followers do we get, and those are consistently rising. And then we are trying to do a better job of putting out our own recreation newsletters. Hopefully you saw the recent e-blast that went out promoting our camps and our events. Same thing, we get to see, you know, how many actually opened the email, how many clicked on it. And thankfully, those numbers are pretty high. But it is, you know, how do we reach beyond, you know, our email database or beyond our social media? But thankfully, we are seeing numbers and they're positive.
Councilmember Reynolds.
I think Commissioner Cohen has hit on an important general problem that the city has when it comes to communication. And the first thing to recognize is Let's Talk is not really intended as an information sharing platform, like about news, about events at the community center. It's more an engagement platform to get community input from. And I think if you get word out that, you know, this is the place to give input at, it's pretty good at that. But we need to find better ways about communicating more generally to the community. And you know, the problem we struggle with, frankly, is, you know, it costs money to send out mailers. You know, it's not cheap. We have an email list as a city, but it's not huge. It's a few thousand names, and I'm sure some of those people are people that don't even live on the island anymore and may not even be alive. So who knows how many of them are current. So we have to kind of rely on, you know, word of mouth and other things to get the word around. You can all help with that if you're on social media by sharing posts that come out from the Parks Department or the city more generally. But just keep in mind that as planning or Parks Commission members, when you do that, you're probably subject to public records requests. If somebody someday says, I want all of the posts that Rory made on Facebook about parks activities, you'd have to go dig it out and provide that. So it has its downsides and its challenges. Just a brief reminder for everybody, be very wary about talking about these things on Nextdoor, because the tools the city has to track and extract information from Nextdoor in response to a public records request are not very robust. So you really need to keep manual screenshots of everything you post there and every comment somebody makes in response to those posts. That's a problem that is unique to Nextdoor.
Thank you, Craig. Any other questions going once? All right. Thank you, Ryan, Alex, Katie, Jeremy. The sixth item of business is absences and commissioner reports. Commissioners, do you have anything to report, including planned absences?
I went for a walk a couple of weeks ago, when it was nice out, I came here and I parked and I did the walk around and went through the pea patch and then down and all the way around the whole of Luther Burbank. And it was something that I don't think I've done in a really long time. And it was neat to see how the pea patch was coming along, how the boiler building is coming along. And I wanted to walk along the path down by the water between the boiler building and the beach, but I couldn't because they were still doing work there. But it was really neat to see it all come together and knowing how many years it has taken to get some of these things to come to fruition and that it actually did happen. Took a really long time, but it is happening. So that was really cool.
Any other?
Yeah,
Commissioner
I mean,
Cohen.
you can get to that path, but you've got to come down from the playground.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
particular day that I was
Yeah.
there, they had trucks going
Ah,
back and
okay.
forth. Yeah.
Commissioner Markson.
This week I went for a walk through Gallagher Hill Park, which I had never been in. I don't know where I've been all these years, but that's a pretty fun little wild park there. There's no one in it, and my son was with me. He's like, I'm sure we're gonna run into tents, but we didn't run into any tents either, so that was good. Anyway, I just shout out for that nice little park there.
Any other? I just like to kind of echo one thing that Ryan said in his report. He mentioned there was 113 volunteers over the last couple of months that, worked in our parks on, I'm going to call planned events, but I also want to give a shout out really to kind of all the residents that, even those that, they're just walking and maybe they pick up a little bit of litter and put it in a trash can or whatever. So great job and looking forward to a great summer. And with that, we will move to adjournment. But before we do that, I want to say that the next Park and Recreation Commission meeting is a special meeting on July 11th, beginning at 5 p.m. The time is now 6:46 p.m. and the meeting is adjourned. However, as a reminder to commissioners, please stay seated until the city staff has terminated the Zoom broadcast. Good evening, and thank you all for joining us.